the process that got us. So we'll give a brief overview of the process that got us to the bylaws changes, a, a sort of summary of what those changes mean. And then we just wanted folks that were interested to have a chance to ask questions and see what you had to say. I think we have a link to where they actually are that you should have already seen in a prior email. And I'm going to try and screen share here. So if I'm not looking at the camera, it's because I'm looking at this PowerPoint and I don't want to cover all your lovely faces. There we are. Looks like I can do both. There we go. So welcome. Tom's here to help me out. Rachel had some other stuff come up. I'm not sure if she's going to be able to join us or not. And I don't want to put this into presenter mode because it takes over my whole computer and we're being super casual about this anyway. So first, what we will be changing is Article 11, Officers and Directors, Section 5, Election of Officers and Directors. This will happen by a vote as a part of our general membership meeting on the Thursday, December 9th meeting. Polling will open at 9 a.m. and close at 5 p.m. You can cast ballots online, which we recommend. There's also paper ballots available in the association office that you can pass off to any staff member that's there. In order to pass the bylaws change, we have to achieve a quorum of the membership, which is 15%. And we worked up that number. I think it's 168 people-ish, give or take. And then once we have a quorum, a simple majority voting yes will pass the change. Starting presidencies ago, and they're all here, so they can all speak to that. We started looking at the process by which we elect folks into the officer and director positions in particular. And that had occurred with a nominating committee that interviewed candidates privately, selected by vote candidates for a slate, and that slate was presented to the membership for approval with the same sort of quorum that we just talked about, but it was not necessarily an election. You approved the slate. There was an ability to run from the floor, and you had to get signatures from 10% of the membership, I believe, and could add your name to the ballot. And at that point, you would become elected. Although in my time in CAAR, I've never seen that happen. It was also because of how we did it, which worked for decades, but because of how we did it, the process and how the different positions rolled and who you were actually voting for remained a mystery. And in some cases, just our local custom had taken the force of bylaws and policy in ways that served their purpose for their time, but we have moved on. So this bylaw change will replace the nominating committee with a candidate review committee. It will update the qualifications for the candidates, and it just reaffirms in the bylaws that just like our other associations, and particularly at the state level, that the president-elect does not have to serve as treasurer, nor does the treasurer automatically proceed to become president-elect. Those are always two separate elections. Ooh, what happened there? That's interesting. So this started, we started talking about it when Teely was president, and then the first project team got appointed by Tom during his presidency. It was 10 members. We sought out a diverse cross-section of the association membership. They were all current or former volunteers. There were current and former board of director members, and we made sure that we represented a variety of brokerages. We also did our best to mix up the people so that there were newer faces, faces that have been involved with CAAR for many, many years, but a variety of opinions in that process. So their goals were to review the existing procedures for the board, master groups, project teams, committees, councils, and recommend updated procedures as necessary. Develop the recommended procedures by which members are appointed to external groups, such as government bodies and local community groups. Another thing that's not, we know it, we don't hide it, but it's not really well known if you don't participate in it, is that we do appoint members to certain boards, and that's generally done solely at the discretion of the president. And so we wanted to just look at all those systems and make sure what we were doing was fair, that it was equitable, that it was in line with our strategic goals for diversity, and that it did not create real or perceived barriers to people that wanted to serve in those positions. So they gathered best practices from NAR and from a variety of associations through Virginia. There are as many ways to elect people as there are associations. So there's no real one way to do it that's right. And I think as we went through this process, I'll go back to the slide and then I'll comment later. We engaged legal counsel to make sure what we were doing was in line with all of our federated requirements. And then this information went from the project team, which worked diligently with a lot of discussion. And I mean, a lot of discussion. This moved to the operations master group that also reviewed it. Finally, to the board of directors who also reviewed it. And by motions at all three levels, this is now before the membership next week for their final vote. So you have the document, things that you can review. There's not really a red line like we might do if we were just changing individual sentences that I think we have published. We're completely changing it. It's a whole new paragraph. So there's not a ton of red line. I think our goal with this has always been that there's a high degree of transparency, that there is a really consistent application of the qualifications and requirements, and that it is something that we really want and hope that the membership at large will participate in actively and in larger numbers than what we've had up to now. And that's sort of the end of my little 10-minute presentation. Tom, what would you like to add?
Quentin, there's not a whole lot more that I could add to that other than your comment about there's no one right way to do this. That is correct. My intent when I appointed this project team was see if the process can be improved, and if it can be improved, how would you recommend that it be done? And what you see before you is what we've come up with. I like the fact that it's much more transparent than before. Everybody can see what the requirements are. One of the charges that I heard when I chaired the nominating committee this past time was that from year to year, depending on the makeup of the committee, the perceived qualifications could change. And we needed to do away with that. We needed to make it fair, equitable, open, transparent, all those things that, you know, the initiative we have with that's been taking place last year and this year is to do that. So we wanted to make it a more fair process. And also one of the things that remove a barrier to participating in CAAR, because I've always said, I still say this, I'm a cheerleader for CAAR. I think we're the best association in the Commonwealth. And I've got people who will back me on that statement. And I think this was one of those times when we need to put our money where our mouth is and, you know, take what I think is the best association and make us even better. So there you go.
Okay, may I say something, please?
Yes, please.
Okay, the minimum eligibility looks good, and yes, the interviews could, I was on it too, and you know, I was very thankful that I had a couple of very good brokers that helped out on my time. But I think it would be really good if we could have the application that you're going to have them submit, I think that should go along with this so that people can see what actually the application looks like, so that we know the questions that are going to be asked, because, the minimum of eligibility, have they ever worked on a different board? I'm sure you're going to have those kind of, questions on the application. What kind of other experience do they have for the, and are people able to, I haven't gone over this completely, but if you're been in the business 3 years, are you allowed then to go ahead and put your name in for president-elect? Or should you be on the board a little before you go right into president-elect?
So as we went through the process, both with the team and with our legal counsel, we wanted to move all of that decision-making to the membership. So as you fill out the application, which will be similar to the one we've had before, but a little more robust, provided you don't check any of the ineligibility boxes and at least 18 months out of the 3 years in CAAR, then you're good. And you're good to be a candidate. Then the membership will have an opportunity, because we're broadening the application window. They will have an opportunity up to 2 weeks prior to the election to see all of these items, to see what their participation level has been, to have either a written or video statement from that candidate as to why they're interested, very much like applying for the Virginia Level Association.
Right.
So
okay.
that, and then their contact information will be there. So we're really discouraging campaigning, as it were. We're trying to discourage that. What we are encouraging is that the membership get more involved and have the accurate contact information and resumes for every candidate. So if Lori applies next year, I know how to find Lori at a click. I've read her resume that she's provided and watched her video. And I can say, Lori, tell me more about how you want to sell realtors to circuses so that they can fly monkeys. I want to understand your position on that. And I think the whole goal was to, one, really broaden and remove any sense of a person's personal decision,
Right.
allowing or disallowing candidacy, set some clear guidelines on the minimum and the denials. So that's really what that review committee will be doing.
Okay.
And then allow the membership themselves, in fact, not just allow it, require it, to be involved at a higher level in this decision-making process than what we've gone through up to now. And much like the current process that we're seeking to change, a candidate can apply for multiple spots, or they can agree that if I don't get this one and you've got a vacancy down here, just roll me down, if you need to. There's a couple of ways we're going to try and do that. I think what's going to be trickiest on this is really educating and promoting and mentoring people into being candidates, because you're going to have to be if you lose, people are going to know you applied. And in the past, that didn't have to happen.
Right.
And I will confess, it wasn't that terrible in the Virginia Realtors process. Now, I say that as somebody who won.
I was going to say, yeah, right. I have watched people walk away from Virginia Realtors because they didn't win. So that's,
Correct.
Yeah.
And I think that that's not new. I think we've had people walk away from our association because they didn't win, but they also walked away feeling like maybe they didn't get a fair shake. And so we wanted to really just make it super transparent and put it before the membership themselves to seek additional information, to be more prepared, and to participate. So I'm curious, the way we did this I think I have a role in this in the coming year, being immediate past president. And we intentionally left some items for policy as opposed to bylaws so that we can do some tweaking
Okay,
between
good.
now and the election. So the application, for instance, will be able to be changed more quickly without a full membership vote, because that's going to live in the policy. How
Okay.
we administer the election will live in the policy. And so we still got some work to do to make sure we have caught everything with that between now and the next set of elections. But really felt like we needed to get the bylaws set out now,
Yes,
so that there was a full election cycle to really massage that policy and do a lot of good education. There was a lot of really vigorous discussion back and forth in the group. And then as it moved forward, I think because there was such good discussion and push and pull, as it moved forward, it just passed pretty easily through operations and at the board level.
right.
We had set aside an extra half hour. We had everybody in person. I was really enforcing Robert's rules, waiting to see how this, and everybody I think understood, and that just pushed it forward. So I'm hopeful that that's what will happen a week next Thursday.
Good.
And I think one of the things Tom pointed out, and one of the things we recognized, there is no one system we can embrace that will be perfect and that will not have its downsides. So we tried looking at the strategic plan that we just approved. What's the one system that's most in line with our strategic plan? Understanding that they're all going to have some downsides. And this is what that project team and everybody else came up with. And Rachel deserves like lots of pats and thanks, because that was a difficult group. It was a tough group to chair, to just sort of start from scratch and say, hey, we just want to change this without any direction. You know, most groups are like, pick between this choice and this choice. This was not it. It was, here's where we want to go. And we don't really know where we want to be or the path to get there, but figure that out and do it really quick with bylaw changes.
Right.
And God bless them, they did it.
Well, and that's it. I mean, you know, when I came on board, it was, well, we've always done it this way. Well, you know, we got to get out of that. And so you guys took a big job and did it. So kudos.
And does anybody else have any questions? The whole point of this was just to give folks a chance to, the reason we did Zoom and not a webinar is we just wanted to have a chat and see interested parties, give you a chance to ask your questions. I see Emily, there's Sarah still. Does anybody else have any questions?
I'm here, but I never want to run another campaign again. So just listening.
Well, Emily, that's that's something that you should help with, because, you know, I won't go to the Virginia Realtors either, because I don't want to stand up in front of all those people and do that. I feel I'm a good leader, but I get very intimidated with that. So this is something that needs to be brought out too. Are we going to lose people running for boards and stuff?
And I think we'll have to tease that out in the process. And we might. I know the general sensation was, I mean, by the time you really talked it out, and I'm not trying to minimize the amount of effort they put in because I'm encapsulating, the general sensation is if you're going to stand up and make decisions on behalf of the association, you're going to have to be willing to put your face out there and maybe not get it.
Right.
Because that's already happening. It's just happening quietly. And at least this way, there was no sense that one or two people made your decision for you. It's out to the membership. So yeah, there's other downsides to this, but we felt like they were in line with where, at least steps further to where we wanted to be. And that's also why we have the policies written that really discourage and make it difficult to campaign You do the application and the information is posted. You're perfect. Of course, you can go talk to people if you're not on the association grounds or in an association function. And people can reach out and talk to you, but we made it kind of hard to, you go to NAR, there's campaigning. It's a big deal. Those positions are also paid positions, I discovered. That's the first time I knew that, some of them. So we tried to make it as fair and transparent and as least painful as possible. And
Thank you
Emily,
all for everything that you do. I know there's a
Thank
lot of
you.
work that goes on behind the scenes, and it's sometimes unrecognized appreciation, lack. I don't know. It's just I just want to say thank you, guys.
thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, this is one of those processes you don't realize all the stuff that goes on until you're involved in it, and it's quite an education sometimes.
I know
I-
Lori wants to say something, but it is also one way that you learn about the association that you don't know. So it is worth getting involved so that you can, see the process and help us be better at being an association. So now, Lori, I'm going to let you talk.
Oh, I was just going to agree with Sarah. I agree that I appreciate all the behind the scenes hours and hours and hours that you work on just presenting the one little, it seems like just a little bit of effort, but it's not. I realize how involved that is, and I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
I think being involved in the association is sometimes like having children. You have this whole dream of what parenthood would be like, and then this other thing happens. All right, then. I really appreciate you guys. No need to drag it out if there's no more questions, and I hope you all have a lovely day.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.